I want to shift to a conversation I had with a guy named Marcus. He's also known as that franchise guy. I love Marcus. He's a new friend of mine. I really enjoyed talking to him. Now, I made a comment to start our conversation. I pointed out that I'd never known who he was before I got messages about him. I said I'd never heard of him. And I listened back to that with my girlfriend. I was editing it last night. My girlfriend goes, Zach, you really sound full of yourself. And so I want to be clear. I don't think Marcus was offended. But if it sounds really bad, it's not my heart. I don't mean to be rude. I just legitimately was like, oh, there's a lot of voices on the internet, and I didn't know. I'd never heard of his. And when I got to know him, it was really fun. We talk a lot for 45 minutes in this segment. It's really cool. I really like Marcus a lot. I just wanted to clarify that opening line might be kind of jarring for me. I apologize. My heart was not trying to bash Marcus or say anything negative about him. He makes great content. I really like him. And we had a fun conversation. So please enjoy my conversation with Marcus, a.k.a. that franchise guy. Joining me now is Marcus, a.k.a. also known as that franchise guy. Marcus, how are you?
I'm doing great, Zach. Thanks for having me on. I think I picked up listening to your show about 18 months ago, and I don't think I've missed a upload since. So I appreciate what you do. It's great to be on. I'm excited.
That's cool, man. I means a lot to hear that. I admit, and I apologize. There's so many voices on the internet. I'd actually never heard of who you are until I got, and by the way, you have amazing fans. I got literally 100, 200 messages from people saying, Marcus, this dude wants to collaborate. I'm like, who? And no offense, again, I just didn't know. And I looked you up, and I found the Fully Inflated Football podcast. And I'm like, well, I'll click on it. And I hope to find the video, the moment where you referenced me. And at an hour drive north to get to a funeral. I saw your week 2 episode reacting to the games. Listened to all 2 hours. I loved it. And then lo and behold, your second to last word was about me. And I'm like, holy crap, this dude's got a really loyal audience. They listen for 2 hours. I just really love that. I'm like, oh, that's awesome, man. Well done. And by the way, quality content. I really enjoyed what you had to say.
I appreciate it.
I like having people on. For me, football is my favorite sport in the world. I like talking about it with people. You're interesting. You're well thought out. You had something that surprised me, if we can start here, with I want to say not Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, the Bengals quarterback. You ranked him as a top 10 quarterback. I admit, I haven't clicked on the video. I saw the title and went, that's interesting and weird. Why do you have Joe Burrow in your top 10, or do you?
So this one was fun to explain, obviously. Awesome. And it was not like a clickbait thing. It really was. Yeah. I'm not a stats guy. I don't really care about what the box score says. I'm almost exclusively a traits-based analysis type of thinker.
Oh, man. I love that.
And when I look at Joe Burrow, and the big thing really comparing was Josh Allen. And a lot of people were like, how can you say that Joe Burrow is a top 10 quarterback after 3 weeks at the time? And Josh Allen, after 3 weeks, I was hesitant, right? And the thing with Joe Burrow is he has now played, what did he play, 14, 15 games at LSU, and now 3 games in Cincinnati, and he has been the same guy every single week. And coming out of college, it was, other than raw arm talent, this guy has a top 10 really, trait at everywhere you look, whether it's processor, decision making in and out of rhythm, ability to sense pressure and extend plays, accuracy. He has a whole package, and it's not like he has a bad arm. I think his arm is comparable to Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. So, what I said coming out of LSU, and I was actually slow to the game on Burrow because of what he had shown before that. But once I watched every throw he made, I was like, this guy doesn't make mistakes. He is flawless, unlike any rookie prospect that I've ever seen, for sure. And then we see 3 games. He's surrounded by the worst offensive line. His playmakers actually aren't that good. A.J. Green hasn't been that good. Tyler Boyd has been all right, but John Ross is dropping balls in the first couple weeks. And he's showing all of the same stuff he showed at college, which is, to me, already elite pocket presence, elite processing, ability to read defenses. He doesn't make mistakes. His 2 interceptions are not really on him. And I'm ready. And when you compare it to Josh Allen, the problem with him is he had problems coming out of college. The last 2 years he's had problems. So it's kind of an inverse sample size argument because, yes, Josh Allen has been great for 3 weeks, but we also have a large sample size of him in his last 20 games of having problems. So that was kind of where the big argument came in on that. And then putting him over like Matt Ryan, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, that kind of stuff, that's fine. Those guys have established records. I just really like what Burrow is doing in and out of structure right now. He is just incredible.
I think what's interesting about Joe Burrow, and everyone talks about his weapons, A.J. Green has not been the same this year. And you said, it sounds like you picked him over Matt Ryan, Drew Brees, Tom Brady. I would actually agree with that. Brees especially, I love Drew Brees, one of my favorite people growing up. He's not the same this year. And it's just obvious watching to me. And Joe Burrow, I love what you said, nearly flawless except for arm strength because, while, has a great arm, everything else, accuracy, ball location is phenomenal. Do you remember watching him 2 years ago at LSU? How different of a quarterback he was? Like, he was not even an NFL quarterback, in my opinion, 2 years ago.
Right. Yeah, he was, totally buried. I had him, just as a note, like QB 15, QB 16.
Yeah.
And,
lower than, like, an A.J. McCarron would be, by the way, too. Like, literally that low.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, almost no difference between those types of players. Yeah, it was just insane whatever clicked for him. Man, it's unlike anything I remember at any level.
I think
turnaround.
If I may, watching even LSU last week, the difference with Joe Burrow and everybody else is attention to detail. He works at every little thing. He manufactured a relationship with every receiver he had at LSU. Watching the new guy they have, I forget his name right now, Miles something, some boring tall quarterback I don't care about anymore.
Sure.
When he rolls to the right or the left, his receivers don't know where to go. They haven't had any chemistry working on, when I roll out, I want you to come back to this area, this location, little things like that where Joe Burrow drilled it into the people around him. We're doing this, we're doing that. We have to be on the ball with all these little details. And it's really translated well to the NFL because, again, every little detail he can control, he's dominating it. And again, he had an interception last week against the who did they play it? The Jaguars, where Miles Jack just stole the ball from his own tight end. It's like, that's not really Joe Burrow's fault at all. Yeah, it's like, it's not his fault at all. Who would you rather have Joe Burrow over? Like, who are the guys ahead of him, I guess, question.
The 5 ahead of him were Mahomes, Russ, and Rodgers, who, in my opinion, are a tier above anyone else right now.
Yep.
And then Lamar and Watson. So he would have been ahead of basically all the veterans there.
Yep.
And then ahead of, say, Josh Allen, Dak, Wentz, who people are down on right now.
Yeah.
And then I guess Kyler. But, I have him ahead of all the young guys other than Watson and Lamar. And ahead of all of the veterans because he just moves so well. And I don't think he's... honestly, mentally, as far as, decision-making and processing, he's right there with Matt Ryan, and he's potentially ahead of what Tom Brady's doing inside the new scheme, Brady has been far from perfect as far as his decision-making. I just look like, when I really sat there and asked, in a vacuum, what quarterback do I want to help me win a game on Sunday? And he was the 6th name that came up on my list.
I love that. I think it actually totally makes sense, especially when you consider that he's more mobile than other guys like Matt Ryan or Tom Brady. And that's kind of one of those fun things where you go down. I did this with the Cardinals when I picked their season. I looked at their schedule, went through the list, counted up, and oh my gosh, they're 12-4. It looks like I'm going to be wrong on that. But my point is, it's fun when you go through a process and are surprised by the results, but you trust your process to get there. Does that make sense?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome. How about Justin Herbert? What do you make of his first couple weeks?
Yeah, so I know you weren't a Herbert guy either.
No.
I was very far on that end of the spectrum as well. I had a 2nd-round grade on him, and I went as far as comparing him to Paxton Lynch at the end of the draft process. And I said his ceiling would be a Jared Goff, where if he has a good structure around him, he can play in rhythm, he can be accurate. I just don't trust him to become that kind of next level quarterback. And he's out the gate really exceeding my expectations in a few things. For one, his arm has been as good as advertised, and as low as I was on Herbert, some people disagreed with me when I said that the second he gets drafted, he's going to be top 4, top 5 arm talents in the NFL, because he really does have that close to like Josh Allen, Mahomes, Rodgers arm. which if used correctly can be lethal, as we saw last week especially. But what he's done is he's been more consistent with his accuracy, which has surprised me. He, at Oregon, in my opinion, had 80-90% of his throws were great and they looked awesome, but then that 10% of his throws would just totally get airmailed, nowhere in the right vicinity. And I haven't seen that show up quite yet in his first 3 starts. So that's been something that he's kind of proven me wrong on. But that was far from my biggest criticism of Herbert. My biggest problem was sort of the pocket feel, and do you trust the guy out of structure? And what we're really seeing, I think, is Herbert is actually a lot more comfortable navigating the pocket than I anticipated. It reminds me a lot of Gardner Minshew with Jacksonville, where I totally just did not think he was a mobile quarterback at all. And when you really look at his Washington State days, they had quick hitting horizontal offense, pretty good pass protection. I think a lot of it was he didn't have a lot of opportunities to show some of that play extension. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of that. But I think that's probably where I was the most wrong on Herbert, was he actually looks, to me, really comfortable in the pocket. And I think that's going to really help him develop. Unlike, say, another quarterback I had a second-round grade on the year before, in Daniel Jones, who I think is just completely lost in the pocket and doesn't have any of that confidence. And I think that's really going to help him develop in a very similar way to what we're seeing from Josh Allen right now, where when you have that kind of crutch where you can not even necessarily do the Russell Wilson, Watson thing where you're dancing around and making crazy plays, but even just the subtle moves to feel the blitz, step up, and step into a throw over the middle. When you have that confidence to do that, it just helps the game slow down so much more, and you just play confident. And I think that's something that I didn't expect from Herbert, that we're really seeing at a pretty good level, especially for a rookie. The last thing I'll say here before I turn it over to you is that was a big criticism. The accuracy was a bit of a problem for me. And then right there with the pocket presence stuff was his decision-making out of structure, kind of the what the hell are you doing throws. And that's where some of the Trubisky comps came into play in the draft season. Now, I will say that has still kind of been there. All 3 of his games, they're 0-3, right? They've been all close games, so I lose track of how they ended up. But all 3 games, he's had a back-breaking second-half interception in a close game that ended up helping the other team win the game, because he had the Chiefs pick where if he just scrambles for that first down, he had 10 yards to run. He just chucks it up over the middle of the field you're pulling your hair out. Dude,
what are you doing?
Why? You have the game, dude. You're going to beat the Super Bowl champs in your rookie debut. And he just does that. It's oh, no. Why? And then he had a bad pick against the Panthers. I think that was throwing a corner route, and he didn't see the buzz safety, I believe, is kind of what happened there. And then I honestly watched the game losing interception against the Bucs last week. I watched it 10 times. I have no idea what he saw. And it's just all right, it's 3 weeks. Don't want to overreact, but that is something that was a part of his college tape consistently 2 or 3 times a week. Now the question becomes, do we see kind of the Josh Allen stuff where he gets more comfortable, he stops doing that stuff, or does it go the other way where it actually goes closer to what his track record is, and he makes 2 or 3 of those mistakes a game? So I'm totally giving him a chance. I give every quarterback a blank slate when they get into the league, and that's why I'm much more intrigued by what I've seen from Herbert compared to Daniel Jones, who had a similar grade on. But yeah, what do you think about Herbert so far?
I'm trying to be really careful. I want to wait till either the year's going to end or 10 games in before I really, because my problem is it's too small of a sample size, and I love everything I've seen, but also there were times at Oregon where I loved what I saw. You know what I mean? And I don't want to jump the gun. I will say he looks a lot better than I would have expected. Pretty obviously. I mean, we're wow, he's putting up big numbers, and numbers are great, but he's also not winning, and that's concerning. But I like what you said about giving him a fair chance, because that's what I'm going to try to do. I have nothing against him. I do wonder if being able to do football full time might help him. He had a tough major in college, and I think at Oregon had a lot of other stuff going on. His family was there. He's removed from them. He's very focused on football. That might help him a little bit. I will say I'm surprised he's doing as well as he is. The mistakes are still killing me. The weird back-breaking interceptions are again, this is the same problem he's always had. The question has never been, is he physically capable? He's got an incredible gift of a tool set of physical skills. The question is, can he be consistent? And so far, it's like sometimes, but that's actually not what consistency is defined by. So we'll just see where we are in 10 weeks. I was curious on your take, but I just am kind of like, we'll wait and see.
Yeah,
I hope he does well.
The thing, like the picks, they're not like we said with Joe Burrow. Like Burrow's picks were a broken screenplay where he tried to shovel pass it, and Melvin Ingram made a great reactionary pick, and Miles Jack making an incredible play where he literally rips a touchdown out of Burrow's hands. Herbert's, it's like you can't defend, like you can't explain the thinking behind it. One last note that I thought was interesting was, did you watch Hard Knocks this year?
Yeah, I did. Yep.
So do you remember? It was a small thing, but Anthony Lynn had to tell Herbert when they were going through walkthroughs to follow through your reads, because Herbert was just doing the one read and stopping in the walkthrough, and he was like, follow through on your reads. And at first I was like, why is he not doing that? And then I remembered, or at least had the idea that maybe he just, like, Oregon's coaching maybe is just really not that good as far as translating to NFL success. So it just some things to kind of compare and contrast the NFL coaching to Oregon that I thought was interesting potentially.
That's surprising. Yeah, you normally, even in high school, I would catch the ball, throw it to the out guy, and then continue, or at least work through all in a walkthrough, like on air, go through to your last read. That's kind of weird. I've never.
Yeah, and he started almost 4 full years at Oregon, so like at some point they probably would have told him to start doing that, and it would just become second nature. So I mean, it could be just small intricacies like that we're not noticing. Like, okay, now that they have a coaching staff that's actually telling him every aspect of practice, you got to pay attention to the details and go through all your reads. Like, that could actually be a big step forward as far as his development.
Well, and by the way, his quarterback coach, Pep Hamilton, is a great quarterback coach. Like, he's really in a good. He was a former head coach of DC Defenders in the XFL. He's like a really good quarterback coach. That'll help him a lot too.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I don't want to be too hard on him. I don't want to be too. I just want to wait and see. I haven't really talked about him much. I've been intentional. Just people are like, I feel like people are spamming me with messages saying, admit you were wrong. Admit. I'm like, I'm not going to bend the knee yet, guys. Let's wait till 10 more
went
games,
through the
maybe.
Same thing with Lamar Jackson, where I actually liked Lamar coming out. And he showed flaws in his first year, and I pointed them out. Like, he was the worst accuracy charted quarterback in the modern PFF era as far as missed throws to open targets. And he didn't look comfortable in the pocket, and he threw for 6 yards in his first playoff game until it was garbage time. So I was like, I'm not ready to say Lamar Jackson is a good quarterback. I think I ranked him like one of the worst quarterbacks in the league entering his MVP season. And I was happy to be wrong, and I love watching Lamar now. But, like, I'm not, people like you and me, like, when you're confident in what you saw, you say what you see, and then you react to new information. And there's always going to be people, especially fans, that are going to turn a blind eye to any problem at all and just be all in on these guys becoming superstars no matter what, that are going to say, I was right, you were wrong. It's just, just be confident in what you see. And I think there's a balance that we all need as far as acknowledging what happened and what is happening, if that makes sense.
Well, it's also kind of frustrating. People really struggle with new information. It's okay to change your mind. I mean, that's right. Our job is to look at what we see and say, here's what's happening right now. Our job is not to be, we remove emotion from it for the most part. I mean, I love Gardner Minshew. I might be a little bit blind on that one, but I really love, I try to remove my emotion as much as possible. Yeah. And the reality is, watching Lamar Jackson throw in college, then his first year in the NFL, you went, that needs work. But it doesn't mean he can't get better. And he's actually changed the way I evaluate D'Eriq King, the quarterback of Miami, where I look at D'Eriq King now and I go, I don't like the way he throws the ball. It's ugly. It comes out weird a lot of the time. I'm not confident in that currently, but it doesn't mean he couldn't get better. And what I'm trying to look at with a guy like D'Eriq King is say, like, he struggles to throw the ball in ways I don't like right now. But he's a great leader. He works hard. He runs the ball well. If he gets a good coach who believes in him and can develop his skill set, and he can develop as a thrower of the football the way Lamar Jackson did, then maybe. And before I would have just said he's never going to work. Now I'm saying it's a maybe because Lamar Jackson did. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. I mean, the first thing I thought of when he said that was like Jalen Hurts needs to send Lamar a Ferrari or something, because I don't know if Jalen Hurts gets drafted if it's not for what Lamar Jackson did as far as overhauling his mechanics and all that. Because I was down at the Senior Bowl, and Hurts actually looked really good throwing the football, and his throwing motion looked completely different from what it was at Oklahoma. And I think that willingness to, and Lamar totally changed his mechanics too. So to totally, like that willingness to take a chance on a guy with better coaching, I think Lamar and Josh Allen right now is his mechanics haven't necessarily changed, but we're seeing more development at the quarterback position now than say 5-6 years ago.
How do you deal with getting hate? It's an interesting thing I've been kind of battling with. I don't know if it's because there's more people than ever watching my show. It's really hard for me this year. It's kind of weird. I've never dealt with or struggled with people constantly like berating me before, but this is the first year. It's my second year fully covering football, like, doing this full time. It's my second season, and I'm not like, oh, this is not fun. How do you deal with all that?
Well, I got introduced to the hate very quickly because a big reason my channel was able to grow is I have a popular Madden roster that I do my own personal ratings, because without getting too far into it, the ones EA does are doo-doo. Yep,
I agree. Yep, totally agree.
So I started getting a lot of hate right away. The first year I did it was the year Cam Newton won MVP, and I had him as like an 84 because I was like, yeah, he's got all this, he's not an elite passer. He's a really good quarterback, but from what he actually does in the football field, he's not like a 99 overall. So I've been getting hate from the get-go. As far as how I handle it, some days I handle it better than others. I try not to do this, but sometimes it's hard where I'll blast a guy on Twitter. I'll grab a screenshot from a YouTube comment and just roast him. Because sometimes I do just need a little victory. Yeah. Because it is mostly just hate. But yeah, I mean, focusing on the positive reactions and sometimes just muting people and hiding comments. Sometimes you just got to do it, because you are always going to make someone angry no matter what.
Yeah, I've noticed for me what has kind of helped. I've been really doing some soul searching this week, is I've been like, okay, why do I do this? I do this because I like football. I love what I do. I like making content about it, and I love sharing my opinion. And if people hate that, that's fine. But kind of removing, like, who cares if X person doesn't like it? Remember, I like doing it. That's kind of been really helpful for me. I don't know if that sounds helpful to you, but it's remembering, like, oh yeah, I do this because of me and because I enjoy it. Not because I want approval from some random person in Louisiana who's upset and angry about some random thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Is there something that surprises you the most when you look around the league this year?
Well, there's an obvious one, and I don't know if it was going to be your answer, and that's Josh Allen and the Bills. Yeah. So, I mean, I would say Josh Allen's development as far as the accuracy, I think, is the biggest surprise. And this is now twice in as many years that we've seen a quarterback go from wildly inaccurate to top 5 accuracy down the field. Lamar last year and now Josh Allen. So I don't know if this is a fluke, because you go back 20 years, this is not the case. Usually if you're inaccurate coming in, you're going to stay inaccurate. Yep. And they're jumping up. I think this was the Ringer podcast. They were talking about whoever Robert May's new guest is on there. I gotta apologize because I don't remember who that guy's name is, but he was saying it's not just jumping up like a tier in accuracy, it's jumping up 2 tiers to being like below average to then elite. And that's kind of what we're seeing from Josh Allen, and that's been the biggest thing for him. I mean, he's never been a great like mental quarterback, but it's pairing potential mistakes with then also overthrowing dudes left and right, and now he's just like comfortable throwing that deep ball, and that you see the offense just completely open up. And I've been a Josh Allen guy going back to the draft, but after seeing 2 years of relative inaccuracy, I was starting to doubt it. And then all of a sudden, he just comes out this year and it's just been incredible. The other surprise I was going to say is just how bad the Saints defense has been. Yeah. Yep. Because they're loaded at every position, but they can't manufacture a good pass rush. They can't cover. It's been really surprising to see that.
You know, I think as I look around, there's a couple of things that there's no big thing that stands out other than I think Herbert's been surprised. He's better than I thought. Dwayne Haskins really surprises me though. just how bad he's been. I really was excited to watch him this year.
Yeah.
I didn't like what I saw
this morning.
Yeah, he wasn't great on film last year. I look at him like, he's not great, but he's a rookie. Maybe he'll get better. And I thought, based on what I saw from the offseason program, like his own stuff, I'm like, every day looks like he's working. He's doing a ton of stuff. I thought for sure he was going to come in and make an improvement. And it seems like he's taking a step backward. He's less accurate. He's got worse timing. He doesn't know what he's doing. It's like, this is awful. I don't know if you've watched any Dwayne Haskins, but I look at it and go, oh, man, this is really bad.
It's been so painful to watch every week because I try to get through every game, through the condensed games at least.
Yep.
And it's just like, I have a hard time finishing those Washington games. It's like run. Okay, what is Haskins going to do on third down, 3rd and 6? Almost like feel like they're perpetually in 3rd and long. And then it's like he'll just kind of, hit a guy that's sort of open and he overthrows him or it goes in the dirt. He just has been bad.
How often are people open and he's throwing it in the dirt or airmailing it? Or like his mechanics are all over the place. I don't know. It'd be one thing if there literally was nobody open or he had drops or something, but it's literally him just making bad decisions or throwing horrible balls. And I'm like, I don't know. That's just on Dwayne Haskins. There's nothing here. And it was actually really telling. Go ahead.
It totally comes back to, I think having that crutch of play extension is so important for young quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays. Because
you're going to play early.
Yeah. And offensive lines are worse than ever now. So I think having that crutch of being able to extend plays is so important. I think that was a big thing for Josh Rosen as well. And it helps the game slow down when you're not panicking 24/7.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's how Haskins is playing right now. He just has no confidence. He's panicking. He doesn't know what to do. He's not getting a ton of help. But yeah, I'm kind of out on Haskins. Like, I don't even know if the Bears trading for him or anything. I don't think it's gonna go anywhere.
I don't think there's any market. Yeah, he's Josh Rosen. He's not. I think he's worse than Josh Rosen because he throws a worse ball. I don't see anything I like positive about him other than he seems like a good guy, and that's not really helpful to be. You know what I mean? It's like you want to have a good guy at quarterback, but that doesn't win you football games necessarily either.
Yeah.
As brutal as it sounds, I know it sounds way worse than it is. You know what I was also telling about that is he's not just the number 2 quarterback now. He's number 3. Did you notice that?
I did.
Alex Smith is number 2. It's like, oh my God, he's not even number 2. Wow.
Yeah, that's a huge surprise for sure. I thought he would be I thought he would at least hang on to the job until next year.
For sure.
But yeah.
I'm curious about you, man. Actually, before we get into you, is there another team that you watch games and you go, I can't? For me, I can't watch the Jets anymore. I watched 4 games. I don't know what the hell's wrong with me. I watched 4 New York Jets games. Like, why am I not watching more Tom Brady or more Drew Brees? I'm watching freaking Sam Darnold. But I've watched 4 Jets games. Like, I can't do this anymore. Is there another team that stands out to you and you go, I can't watch this football team. They're so bad.
Probably the Broncos, actually.
Yeah.
Which just shows how bad that Thursday night game was. But it's just, I just get depressed. That was the one game I legitimately turned off, was the Broncos-Steelers game.
Yeah.
I get so sad watching it because it's just a completely lost season. And that just, it's just hard. And it's just, I don't get a lot. Like, I don't think I'm going to learn a lot watching the Broncos because it's like, this is not the team that they wanted to be.
There's just nothing valuable to glean from it.
Right. So that's probably the one team that I am having a really hard time with right now. I hope they get Drew Lock back to at least obviously create some excitement, but also just to find out if he's the guy. Like,
get him reps and get him in the system a little bit. Yeah. I like Pat Shurmur. He's interesting. It's hard because you and me, we look at the national perspective and go, what's an interesting story this week?
Yeah.
And there's just nothing interesting about Denver at all. You're like, it's just,
nothing.
We're really waiting for next year already, as sad as that is 4 weeks in.
I mean, Jerry Jeudy is incredible.
Yeah.
He's fun
Fair
to watch.
enough. Yeah.
He's really fun to watch.
But that just makes me disappointed too, because you go, imagine if you played with Cortland Sutton.
Or imagine if he didn't have Brett Ripien throwing him.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
What's your background, man? How'd you start doing YouTube? I'm so curious about that.
Yeah. So I kind of always knew I wanted to work in sports. But I was really going the sports business route throughout college. I went to University of St. Thomas. I'll rep the coffee mug here next to me. UST. We're the team. I don't know if you remember the article that the D3 team that got kicked out of their own conference for winning too much.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah, that was us.
Done.
So
Got it.
I went there. I was in charge of the sports business club. I did internships for local baseball teams, a little stint with the Timberwolves, all on the business side. And I was like, honestly, not digging this. Like, if I'm going to sell something or do marketing, I'd rather make a bunch more money and have better hours and do it somewhere else.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to give up on doing sports side of things. So I just went completely out of the sports business realm, and I applied for PFF online, got that job, and then I started my YouTube channel as like a little pet project because I had, like I said, the Madden roster. And that roster was a great source for me to start YouTube because it was a way to market my channel because it has a little description on there. So it can be like, here's my ratings. If you want to hear me talk about them, go to YouTube. It's that simple. And then I just really enjoyed doing that, and it was almost exclusively Madden stuff. And then the draft season rolled around because I started that in the fall, and then draft season rolled around. And I started talking some mock drafts and stuff, and those started doing well. And I was like, wow, this is actually kind of working. So I really doubled down. The next fall, I took a job doing valet, so I had money for rent, and I was just like, I'm gonna really go pedal to the metal on YouTube and PFF. And that was one of the most busy years. Well, now I'm pretty damn busy too, but that was just crazy how much time I put into just watching film and making sure that I was as intelligent as I could be, because if you don't really know what you're talking about, you're not going to stand out. And that's just slowly grown. And I've had a lot of help from whether it's subscribers or friends and family, and I've just kind of stayed with it. And here we are.
Kudos to you, man. The initial growth period when you're first starting off is so hard because you're usually doing something else. Like, I was in college full-time. I had a full-time second job. I also had a part-time job doing college football games and trying to make content on the side. I know what it's like to have all this other stuff going on while you're trying to do this thing. You're like, this is what I really want to do, is make content, and you can't yet. And it was so frustrating. But once you finally get over the hump, you're like, I'm free. Yeah. It's so amazing.
Yeah, I always tell people the first 100 subscribers are easily the hardest.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And then you got to keep going after that.
Right.
It's just it's cool, man. I'm happy for you. I really like what you do. I really legitimately. Do you ever do Madden franchise stuff? Is that, I know you do, like
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
I have really slowed down on that because I am not happy with the state of Madden right now. I don't know how much Madden do you play?
So the last time I played Madden, I bought Madden 17. I played it literally one time and said not for me. The Madden game I still play to this day is on my PlayStation 3, and I have every console by that. I have PS5 or not 4. I have Xbox One. Sure. I have everything, right? I still play Madden 11 on the PlayStation 3 because I think that's legitimately my favorite Madden game ever. I love it. It's the last time I went, this is really, really fun, and I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I play franchise mode, by the way, till like they give you 30 years, then you can't play anymore. You got to restart everything. But I play until 30 years are up on Madden franchise mode.
Well, and that's why I'm so mad, because Madden 11 has a better franchise mode than Madden 20. Like, legitimately, they ripped out all the features for some technical reason, and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna build it back up, we promise." And then Madden Ultimate Team came out, and they're like, "Well, actually, let's just leave franchise really crappy, so they have to go buy all these cards." And it's just ruining Madden, and I'm really frustrated about it. I will get back to doing a franchise series. I try to do realistic rebuilds, and people tend to like those.
That's cool.
But I'm probably gonna do like an NCAA series, because I can't get into Madden. I can't. I have an online league that's fun, and we do like 10,000 things to make it realistic with like compensatory picks and all this stuff.
That's crazy detailed, man.
Yeah, we got 9 people running the league, and it's like a full-time job, but
good for you, I guess.
Yeah, but I do Madden content. I'll be back at it at some point, but right now it's been all football during the season.
Well, I think it's more fun. I mean, it even sounds like when you did Madden, a lot of what you do though is take real life and translate it to Madden. Does that make sense? Like,
I use it as a storytelling device. Yeah, that's
so cool. I love that, man. Well, hey, well done. Is there anything else that sticks out that you want to talk about? I'm happy here. I think you've done a great job. I really enjoyed having you on.
I don't have anything in front of me. I was thinking, I'm curious where you stand on Dak Prescott, because that's another quarterback that I've been really hard on lately, and I'm curious, like where you come in on Dak.
So my biggest problem with Dak to this point has always been he lacks detail in key moments. On a 3rd and 5 in the red zone, he'll miss a read. We've seen it multiple times last year and this year where it's like you don't see a blitz, a man comes free, you got a guy open, throw to your hot route, not trying to throw a wheel route to Ezekiel Elliott. I can't remember what game. I think that was literally week 1 this year, where it was a key moment, 3rd and 5 in the red zone. It had a hot route, a blitzer comes, a middle linebacker blitzed, has a hot route wide open to Michael Gallup, and instead throws a wheel route to Ezekiel Elliott. It's totally covered. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? It's so simple. Like, one of the fundamental cores of playing quarterback is you got to understand where pressure is coming from all the time. And it's not just that. He just struggles with all those little details all the time. But I actually want to say, to Dak Prescott's credit, I guess, he's not the biggest problem right now with Dallas by a long shot. Their defense is a mess. They gave up 49 points and they lost. Like, you can't do that. You can't do what they've done on defense and get football games. So I really think the biggest problem with Dallas right now is actually not the Dak contract. That's another problem for another day. The problem is they're paying Ezekiel Elliott way too much money for the production he gives you, which is considerable. Like, he's a receiving back, he does well, but you could pay a guy like James Robinson or I mean, that's a bad example because he's kind of out of nowhere. But what's another Josh Jacobs, the guy in Buffalo, Devin Singletary. There are so many. There's other examples I can't think of right now. Nick Chubb,
Aaron
of a
Jones.
guy on a rookie contract. Yes, where you pay him $1.2, maybe $2 million a year instead of 10. That could have been 2 other
15,
starters on defense.
15 for Zeke.
Yeah. So I look at the Dallas Cowboys and say you're overpaying your running back. Not because he's bad. There's no hate against him. It's just you don't need to pay $10 million to any running back anymore in the NFL to get good production.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that Tyron Smith isn't playing like a $16 million left tackle.
No.
Or he's not even playing right now.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm so happy you said that, though, about the key moments thing with Dak, because Dak truthers hate to hear that. And if it was a 3 or 4 game sample size, like, sure, that's ridiculous.
Yep.
But it's now been a problem for a long time. And I keep saying it, he has really bad pocket presence, and people don't realize that. He doesn't sense pressure. There was the play against Seattle where people were saying it was the O-line's fault when they're trying to go down and win the game-winning drive. It was a 3-man rush, and it was a Terrence Steele, the left tackle, gets bull rushed backwards, not completely beat, but was pushed back, lost his matchup, but not a surefire sack. And the contrast between what Tom Brady did against the Chargers against an identical rush where he steps up and throws a touchdown, and what Dak did, I wish I had the film in front of you, but Tom Brady drifts right, feels it, he's like, okay, no big deal, we're calm, my left tackle's getting pushed back, I can feel this, keep my eyes downfield, step up and make the play. Dak has his glued downfield, doesn't feel it, steps, because his technique would tell you just step up in a clean pocket. But you got to feel that pressure, like you said, and he steps right into it, literally right into the one place where the guy could sack him. And this is a key moment. This is, I think it was 3rd down, maybe 2nd down in, game-winning drive opportunity. And of course, Twitter's like, oh, he got sacked, the left tackle got beat. Like, no, watch the good quarterbacks play. They will avoid that sack every single time. And that's a really consistent deal with Dak. He's got a lot of those problems. He's got some problems like Derek Carr type of problems where he'll consistently throw the ball short of the sticks on 3rd down, kind of just take the easy way out. And it's just like, he's a really good quarterback. There's no denying that.
It killed me against the Cleveland Browns on Sunday where he consistently had Myles Garrett in one-on-one matchups against his right tackle. And it's like, you got to understand that if you have, first of all, I think the league needs to give Myles Garrett more respect. He's getting into that territory where you can't leave him in a one-on-one situation at all. He'll just destroy you. There's a reason he's paid so much money. But also, if you're Dak Prescott, you got 1,000, 1,002, get rid of the ball. You got to understand, my right tackle is in a mismatch against Myles Garrett one-on-one. We can take that matchup, but if you're going to do that, get rid of the ball immediately. Do not hold on to it. And the amount of times where he held on to the ball for like 4, 5, 6 seconds with a one-on-one situation against Myles Garrett, I'm like, that's just stupid. You got to understand the situation you're in. Yeah. And it seems like he repeatedly does not.
The excuses just keep stacking up too. It's like it's always something different.
Yeah.
And that play resulted in a strip sack, which is a short field for Cleveland, who was dominating time of possession. And I don't think Dak is nearly close to as free of blame as people like to say. Like, they look at the stat sheet and say, oh, he threw for 500 yards, 4 touchdowns. Well, up until the 5 minutes left in the third quarter, they had scored 14 points. Now, their defense was sucking. That doesn't help. But if you're going to have this super expensive offense and demand $40 million, like, that's going to happen. Like, watch Aaron Rodgers' Drew Brees career. Like, hello, welcome to life as an elite NFL quarterback. Like, you're not always going to have the defensive help. But there's 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and I don't remember the exact play. I remember being disappointed with him on a third down that led to a punt. But he had an easy touchdown on a blown coverage by Cleveland. He had another touchdown that was a good throw, but, you know, it was kind of a 50-50 ball as far as if Sendejo made a break on that thing. Sendejo is just terrible. Other than those 2 throws, he really didn't do anything and was a critical reason why they were down so much, in my opinion, combined with a lot of other reasons. But he was certainly not helping them in that game.
There's a point. I'm trying to find it in my notes. I can't find it. Where I believe in the fourth quarter going in, it was either 34-14 or 41-14, some ridiculous score. Where I think it was 41-14, where this flipped on its head. Like, you can't go into the fourth quarter down that many points every single week. That's on the defense, sure. But also, Dak at some point's got to keep up with the times and get better. If the other offense is scoring that much, that's a little bit on you, staying up with that. And then I guess what I'm trying to say here is that he makes so many good plays in garbage time. He takes advantage of defenses that are like, we're trying to run out the clock, we're playing cover 4, we're way backed off, take everything underneath. He does that all the time. And it's like, yeah, 500 yards sounds great, but the context of how that happens also matters.
Right. Yeah, McCarthy said it best. He said in the post-game presser, he said, obviously defense has to be better, but we're getting rocked in time of possession because we're getting 3 and outs, we're turning the ball over, and it's just not a winning formula. And that's really true. I'm sure everyone would love if Dallas's defense would step up, but you can't always do that. If you want to get paid, if you want to be in the Watson tier range, the Rodgers, all these guys, like, they deal with this kind of stuff. And I don't think that Cleveland would have scored 49 points if Dak was better in the first full 3 quarters of that game.
I'm trying to find. There's one thing I saw. Oh, Trey Lance. I don't think Trey Lance. I look at what he did. Did you watch his one game in Central Arkansas?
I haven't had time to get there, but I have watched his entire 2019.
So, if I may, before we talk about his one game against Central Arkansas, was kind of wild, where he had guys wide open. He missed a lot. Like, he had multiple touchdowns. He missed. His accuracy was awful. His timing was all over the place. And in my mind, he actually played himself out of a draft spot. I really liked him. And I saw him play against Central Arkansas and went, what the heck was that? I was I was shocked. I was like, you're the best athlete on the field for sure. You ran the ball really well, but you left 2 touchdowns on the board. Your timing was all over the place. Your accuracy was all over the place. I'm curious for you to watch that film someday. Based on 1 year last year, what was your thought about him? Before I said that, what were you thinking about him going into this year?
I was hesitant. It's one of those deals where I had the same problem with Tua, and I had the same problem with Justin Fields. It's really hard to evaluate a quarterback when they're up 28-0 heading into the second quarter every week.
Yeah. Yep. And guys are wide open, and they're the best athletes by far.
Yep. So you just have to. That's where it's nice to have traits-based analysis, where you don't have to pay attention to the context so much. It's just what is he doing exactly. And I was not overly impressed by his arm talent. I thought that he certainly was not great throwing outside the numbers. It's hard to say anything bad about his processing or his decision making, but I don't know.
You can't tell. Yeah,
it's hard to know.
It doesn't happen.
It's like an incomplete eval.
Yeah. So when he's got guys wide open, there's not really much processing to go on. It's like he found a guy open by 40 yards. Like, that's shocking.
He is going to be one of the most interesting draft conversations, especially if like you say, he played poor.
Yeah.
Because, man, there's been some tough quarterbacks to evaluate, but I can't think of a quarterback with more unknowns that's a potential top 10 pick. I personally don't think I would take anyone in this class other than Lawrence in the first right now. And Fields could easily prove that wrong, but I was really worried about Fields against Clemson. Fields against Clemson in the championship. Yep. So at least he's going to get a full season, hopefully, to clarify some of that stuff. But yeah, with Lance, dude, I don't know. I have no idea what you do with him.
it's crazy. He actually said he's entering the NFL draft and went, why?
Yeah.
Why? Like, I think he needs to stay in college. I wonder if he bought into his own hype maybe, or if he wants a paycheck or hates college. I don't know what's going on there, but it's weird. The play on the field doesn't add up with him entering the NFL draft already, if that makes sense. I'm just like, what the heck? That's so bizarre. How about Justin Fields? How do you feel about him? Because people think I hate him. I don't. I want to see more from him.
Exactly.
And that makes people furiously angry. They're like, well, look at his numbers. Look at his highlights, bro. I'm like, highlights and numbers are not the way you analyze a player. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, JT Barrett did the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, Braxton Miller did the same thing. I don't know. I want him to be good for sure. I will say from what I can tell, he's pretty accurate downfield, which will always help.
Yep.
But it also helps when your guys are wide open. And I don't know. He just
we'll see.
I watched every single
we'll see,
game
right?
he played, and I was like, there's maybe 2 throws all season where I was like, oh yeah, that was NFL stuff right there. And the rest of it was just like, yep, that's a wide open pocket, hitting a guy wide open on a crossing route. Yep, that's okay. They're up 35-0 and 6 minutes into the first quarter. It's just like I don't get a whole lot from watching his tape. And then the one game where they did need him against Clemson, literally the one game on the entire season, he was not good. He was actually pretty bad. So
yeah, I worry that guys like him and Trey Lance are buying into their hype a little bit. Because it's hard when everyone around you all the time is like, you're the best, you're amazing, you're the next number 1 overall pick, you're better than Trevor Lawrence. I imagine that's hard to not believe eventually when enough people tell you that. And I fear that a guy like Trey Lance especially, we'll see about Justin Fields. I think I want to watch more of him. Trey Lance, I go, dude, don't go to the NFL. Like, what are you doing? I'm very concerned when I heard that. I went, oh man, that's not good.
He'll probably end up the next bust for the Chicago Bears or something.
Well, no, watch, he'll be Tom Brady. Like, he'll just be the best quarterback I've ever seen. That's how my luck tends to work out. Is I go, I don't know about a player. Then the next day they go out and have like 7 touchdowns. I'm like, well, all right. I said what I saw. Sorry about it.
Yep.
Marcus, we were gonna go for 15 minutes. It's been 47. I apologize if that ruins your day. I hope it doesn't.
No, that was great.
I love talking with you, man. I hope you come on again someday. I really like your mind. I like the way it works.
On too, so let's.
Do please, yeah, it'd be fun. Have me on. Dude, thank you so much. Have a great day. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, peace out.